This is, of course, it's the biggest war in Europe in many decades since the Second World War. It's a war that is threatening to throw tens of millions of people around the world into hunger. It's a war that's driving inflation in Pakistan. I want to make sure that our viewers understand your position on the war. Are you prepared to condemn the Russian invasion?
Well, Richard, let me say one thing. First, I want to clarify that I am basically an anti-war person. I do not believe that military solutions exist in this world, because when you try and solve one problem with a military operation, you actually end up creating a lot of other problems, as is the case with the Ukraine war, as was the case with Iraq war, in Afghanistan for 20 years. They created so many other problems. So here's someone who opposed all these wars. And so if I was consulted about the Ukraine war, I would certainly have advised not to go into that. Having said that, I have a certain...
If I may just interject there, because you have said this in the past and made the point that you opposed the Iraq war and you opposed the Afghanistan war. But you were very explicit in opposing those wars. You even stood in Hyde Park in London in 2003 and made a speech against the Iraq war. You condemned it very vociferously. Why are you not doing the same thing with the war in Ukraine?
Well, let me say one thing. I was going to explain why. The reason is that Pakistan has a future is tied up with Russia in terms of gas, oil, and specifically wheat, because we have to import wheat from Russia because of our 220 million population. So when you start condemning people, you're taking sides. Basically, taking moral stands on international issues is very good. But when your country stands to suffer as a result of it, you have to have the luxury to be strong and rich enough to start taking sides. My point of view in this is very simple. I was then the Prime Minister. 220 million of people of Pakistan elected me. Their main interest was that I look after the interest of the people. And therefore, we wanted to have the luxury of remaining neutral in this war.
But you were very open in your criticism of the United States, and Pakistan has also depended on the United States, billions of dollars of aid coming from the United States over the years. So are you suggesting that it's okay to criticize the United States publicly, even though you depend on them, but with Russia you have to treat them with kind of kid gloves? Is that the relationship with Russia?
Richard's slight difference. When I was condemning the Iraq war or the Afghanistan war, by the way, Afghanistan war directly affects Pakistan. We already have over 3.5 million refugees, Afghan refugees in Pakistan. So what happens in Afghanistan, we get affected. But then I was the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And so I was, as a civilian, as someone who doesn't believe in wars, I could speak my mind. But when you become the Prime Minister, your responsibility then becomes the people of your country. And in our case, 100 million Pakistanis are vulnerable, either below the poverty line or just above. So as a Prime Minister, that becomes my main responsibility.